Yes, you can Airbnb without owning any property, but you knew that already. Everybody knows that. It's called subletting, but it's not illegal. You just need the landlord's permission. There's a lot to this conversation, but we're gonna make this pretty short. My name's Sean Rakajich. I have 150 Airbnb properties. Been doing this like 7 years, never owning a single one of them. Made millions. It's been fun. You can do this too. Let's go. Welcome back, YouTube world. So yes, this is my area of expertise. So just fast facts. You can have a property that you don't own. You can sign a lease for it. The landlord can and will give you permission if you present yourself the right way. You can either write that into the lease, your permission, just hardline it into the lease, or you can use something called the lease addendum. And now the lease addendum is probably something we should talk about. So subscribe for more, of course. Just at least give me a subscribe. That's all I'm asking for. Now, what's in the lease addendum could be really interesting. There's some basic stuff and there's some big stuff that you can add in. It's basically what you think you can get away with. The premise of a lease addendum, it outlines a relationship modification that could go in the lease, but we use a lease addendum because sometimes landlords are too scared to change the lease in its entirety, and a lease addendum is easier for them to read like one page and go, okay, this is cool, I'll sign that. But it modifies the whole lease in a way. What a lease addendum would say is that this one page of terms, if it contradicts with the lease, then the page of terms overwrites anything in the lease that it contradicts. Does it make sense? The lease addendum will outline the parties. It'll say you are the tenant, the landlord's the landlord. It'll mention the address. It'll just reference the address, usually called premise or property. And then it'll say this one-page document or two-page document is purposed to outline the terms of an agreement between the landlord and tenant, while a lease is active at premise. And then we start putting the stuff in the lease addendum. And we're going to talk about what goes in there. Now, there's things that you need to put in the lease addendum, and there's things that you're going to want to put in the lease addendum. Now, I have a lease addendum for my Cracking Super O students, but you can really just use this video in combination with a video I already shared years ago, guys. I'm going to put a link to that in the description, and just click on the link here if you want that one. Also, I have something called a master lease. It's a big fat document. It cost me thousands and thousands of dollars to get, to pay to have made. Now, that is a document I also provide for free to my Cracking Super O students, and it's rarely ever used. It's only used for like my absolute biggest deals. You know how I'll do 20, 30, or 40 doors at one time. So a master lease is helpful for that. If you want that thousands of dollars document, you'd have to join that, but you don't need it yet if you're still, playing a small game. So you're good there. Landlord understands that the nature of the tenant's business is to provide this location or premise as an accommodation for varied lengths of stays, including short-term stays as applicable by local regulations. Landlord shall allow the tenant to conduct all matters of business required in order to profitably run their short-term rental accommodation business. Landlord understands what you do, they understand what your business is, and they're giving you permission to conduct your business activities. Now, there's gonna be stuff that you're gonna want in there, and there's gonna be some stuff that landlords want in there. And this is where negotiation becomes super important. Another video that's normally in Cracking Super Roast, but I also have it for free here on YouTube, is my video, How to Negotiate. Go watch that video, because if you've never done sales before, you've never negotiated before you come to a table with a landlord to try to get permission to Airbnb their property, you're going to want to learn to negotiate, because you want to pitch this as a benefit to them. Because if you can get them to really like this idea, they'll give you more cool stuff and they'll ask for less stuff in return. If you don't do a good job negotiating, the landlord might require you in this addendum, they might modify it, that you'll have to have a certain type of insurance policy, that you're going to have a higher security deposit. The landlord will have access to a co-hosting account where they can see the guests that you're taking in. The landlord can make you responsible for repairs, stuff like that. Now, there's things that you should never allow a landlord to add in, like you're not going to share your profits with them or revenue. You're not going to pay more than market rent. You're never going to do that. Now, a lot of you might go, well, what if I need to get my first deal? You shouldn't, because the reason why is the nature of this type of business model, getting a landlord to rent you their property and you put it on the market, you're taking a spread out of the market. You're not going to make more money because you paid more rent. You're still going to collect the same amount of cash. So paying more rent automatically makes the deal worse. It just does. In addition, a landlord who's asking you to pay more rent or, asking you to share your profits, he is now in the mindset that he is doing you a favor and he wants some topside off of your deal. And that is not how we pitch our business model. Now, I have a very strict sales system that I teach my students. One of the premises of the sales system as we make our approach is really to align this as a benefit for the landlord. We're looking for landlords who are willing to see this as a benefit to them because they need a red check too, right? And if we can make this seem mutual, they're not going to have this high on their horse kind of approach where they're dogmatic, they're all up in our business, they're trying to raise a rent all the time, they're being douches. We can have good business with good landlords and everybody is happy. You do not want a landlord who thinks that he's getting one off on you, right? You do not want a landlord who thinks he can charge you more money. You will not like that business relationship. Things that you would like to negotiate for, some of these might be hard to digest, but yes, you can do these, is either no security deposit or a flat, small security deposit, like $300 per door. The ability to use a security deposit bond instead of an actual security deposit, which is like a non-refundable bond. You pay 10 or 15% of its value and it's held for the landlord. Still at a smaller rate, like maybe $1,000 max. So you're paying $150 for a security deposit bond, but you never get that $150 back because hopefully you never move out of the unit anyway. It's not going to matter. You just don't want to lock up money into security deposit. It's bad for your cash flow. So you want to negotiate a different type of security deposit agreement. For places that have made us pay like full month security deposits, we've done what's called a security deposit burn off, where after a half a year and then a year and then a year and a half, we slowly get that security deposit back. So we've done burn offs before. That's a cool pro tip. You also want to negotiate free rent or discounts on rent or both. And yes, you can do that. We'll get 8% off market rate. We'll also get 8 or 10 weeks of rent for free. My last deal in Houston, we got 9 weeks of rent for free. The deal that I was just working on in Austin where we painted all those walls, I got 10 weeks of rent for free there. It is just honestly a part of the negotiation. And if we sell the deal the right way, we can get the free rent. That of course is a cracking Supros thing. Like I've said, there's some things that will stay private because if I gave everybody on the planet my script for free rent, then it takes away my ability to get free rent. I'm sorry, there's some things I just won't give you guys for free because we can't spit it off into the whole world. I still like my free rent and I want to keep that. But for those of you with sales experience, it might start making sense and you might actually find your own way to a free rent script eventually. Otherwise, for those of you without sales experience, like I said, cracking super rust. Surprisingly, you want a longer lease than a shorter lease. This actually is good for you. The reason why is because you're getting possession of a property and you're going to buy furniture. And if you're only able to make money on that property for 1 year, so your return on investment is weighed against your furniture costs and then a year of revenue. But if you can spend the same amount of money for furniture, but then get 2 years of revenue off of that lease, it's much better for you. That's much better for, again, your risk profile. The longer lease is actually good for you. Further, since we're negotiating with a landlord, there's more at play here that we really want to be careful for. We want to take a look at the property and we want to get to know them a little bit because you need to make sure you pick the right property and the right landlord. Everybody would love an A-class high-rise new build property. Problem is the rents can be pretty high on those. So you'll have to do your market research and make sure that it looks like the market can support that because the more rent you pay, like I said, the less room for a spread there is. You're going to have to find new ways to create value. The housekeeping market is pretty high on cost right now, and so I would probably recommend doing cheaper properties where you can get slightly longer stays on average to keep your housekeeping costs down until you can learn my system for hiring housekeepers by the hour. And yes, this is another thing that we do. We pay $14 to $17 an hour for our housekeepers right now. A lot of people don't believe it, but imagine if you owned a housekeeping company that was charging you to clean your house. What is that housekeeping company paying their housekeepers? The W, the hotel right across the street from me, they pay about $14 or $15 for their housekeepers too. Businesses pay hourly all the time, and you can do that. If you did more average properties, ones that aren't as impressive, there might be more room for what you would call value creation. You take a property that doesn't seem so good on paper, necessarily, it doesn't seem so good as a long-term rental, and you can do some magical stuff in order to make that property look way, way cool in the photos. And now if it's well marketed on Airbnb, you can keep your calendar full at a good nightly rate and you have more room for margin. I recently just did a video where I took very plain units in Austin, the same one where I got the 10 weeks of rent for free. Now that I'm running the company again, I went down and I refurnished those. You take a very boring place that's very cheap, and then you can flip that into multiple different looks. I have 2 separate green looks. One is super masculine and I love it because green's my favorite color. One is this blue and green, very neutral, gender neutral, but also very vibrant and fun. And then the other one's pink and purple. And I actually love this unit to death. It's so playful and it's probably one of everybody's favorites so far, from what I've been told. But I'd actually like to know what you think in the comments. Out of the 3, which of these would you stay in? Which would you prefer? Because I'm still looking to paint a few more, another couple of colors, and I could probably use some direction on that. So thank you. And with that said, these cheaper properties will then have things that you need to look for. That landlord may be more of an absentee landlord that doesn't do repairs. And so when you go and tour property, you want to see what state of repair is the place in. Do you trust this landlord to repair things quickly when you report them? We have a property in Houston that we are having some issues where the building is just flooding in part of it whenever it rains. And of course, the landlord's trying to fix the rain problem, but he just doesn't seem to understand his building enough to know where the water's coming from. They reflashed the whole building is what I heard, but the next rain came and we still had a flood. So we have these cheaper properties that look great, but one of our 4-month-long tenants just reported that they are having a flood issue in their living room, a small one, but it's still there. And these are the kinds of things that could happen with a B-class property. So you do want to be careful for the properties that you choose. You do want to ask enough thorough questions to make sure that the state of the building is good. And as you have this conversation with the landlord, you can find out if the landlord's a generally nice person or not. If you have a landlord that has a lot of ego and is kind of combative and dismissive, you're going to find that your relationship with them isn't going to be largely positive. Now, the cool thing about rental arbitrage, especially right now, housing prices might actually pull back. They could legitimately pull back this next year. So to buy a house doesn't really have an advantage because you're not going to get appreciation over the next year. Now, a year from now, if the market pulls back, you might find a cool buying opportunity, and then there would be more advantages to buying. But with rental arbitrage, if you're not looking to get appreciation from the property that you own, it costs about 1/8 of the price to set up an Airbnb as an arbitrage as opposed to buying, because when you buy investment properties, you have to put 20% down. Put this all together into one big enchilada. If you find a landlord who's cool, who is willing to do business, is willing to grow with you, is trying to buy some properties, that's just all they do. If you can pick up 8 times as many units by doing arbitrage than buying, you could give that landlord a lot of business. You can give them a lot of leases. So if you get a landlord that you like and they like you and you're doing good business, as they go buy more properties and they're spending all the money to get the appreciation and the debt pay down, then you can just pick those properties up as rentals and hopefully get a sweetheart rent deal, and you can continue to make a high cash flow business with very little money out of pocket. You might find that you grow to a position where you have 20, 30, 50 doors, and you might want to switch to buying because you just can't grow anymore. There might be a point that you as a business owner just have a hard time running 50 properties. So if you're going to run 50 max and you're already at 50, you might as well switch to ownership at that point because you might make more money per property that way, right? You make more money per dollar with arbitrage. And I will say on that note, if you are thinking about doing rental arbitrage, a recession could be a cool time to do it. ChatGPT seems to think that starting a business in a recession could be a good idea because there could still be strong demand in certain sectors, but there's less people getting into business because of the recession. And you might have an opportunity to get supplies or labor at a cheaper cost. And what's funny is in previous videos, I did talk about this. Right now, if you were to start an Airbnb business, whether you bought or do arbitrage, you could get people's furniture on the cheap. There's people exiting the industry right now. And as suppliers leave the industry and guests stay in the industry, there'll be less suppliers and more money for all the suppliers. And you as a host would be technically a supplier because you're supplying an apartment. ChatGPT seems to agree. Start your business in a recession. Learn to fight while it's tough. Get good at this while it's tough. That way you don't have to learn to get good at this if a recession smacked you in the face in the middle of being a business owner. I think starting while it's hard is probably a cool way to do it because then you have this humble sense of respect for the industry instead of thinking it was so easy and then getting smacked like everybody else is right now. A lot of people who are quitting right now were good hosts when it was easy. They're not good hosts when it's hard. Hunt down some furniture from people who are looking to sell to get out. Make them a payment arrangement. You don't even have to pay full price for the furniture up front. You'll say, hey, I'll make you payments over 6 months. You find a landlord to sign a lease addendum with you. Remember, watch the video that I did years ago on the lease addendum just for another breeze through of what all goes in there because it's a legal document. It's pretty much all the same. And with that said, I'm not a lawyer, guys. I'm just telling you what I use from the lawyers that I've paid. These are the documents I'm using from lawyers that I've paid for this stuff. So yes, I paid thousands of dollars, tens and tens of thousands of dollars to multiple lawyers as a business owner. It just comes with the territory. So I hope that my expenses and experience can give you guys an opportunity at making your first $100,000 a year, 7 figures a year. I hope that for you guys. I was able to do it. It's a pretty easy industry. I think anybody can. If you care enough to grow a business and stay disciplined, you can do it. This is going to be fun, and I'm here to help. If you need anything, put it in the comments, as always. And of course, I have a free Facebook group with about 50,000 hosts that know a lot of stuff too, and we all chat in there. So if you want more of a court of public opinion approach to a question, and you don't want just my answer alone, go into the free Facebook group, The Hosts of Airbnb Automated, to ask your question to a bunch of hosts. You could even get some answers on what markets are good, what type of furniture is best, maybe some opinions on different softwares that people are using, and other stuff like that. But there's a lot of stuff to know, lots to learn, and you can do it. And again, thank you for watching this video as always. I'll see you on the other side.